Series. I'm an MFW intern with Voices for Virginia's Children. And I'm joined today by Suzanne. Suzanne, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Suzanne Grable, and I am the director for the New Kent County Department of Social Services. And I've been with the local Department of Social Services in Virginia for a little bit more than 18 years now.
Terrific. Thank you, Suzanne. I really appreciate you joining us. So we're here today to talk about one of the big achievements from the 2021 legislative session. We had a budget amendment approved that restores $2.2 million to local departments of social services to increase minimum salary levels for caseworkers. So the goal of this funding, of course, is to assist in reducing high turnover and vacancy rates in these positions. So today, I wanted to talk with you, Suzanne, about the implications of this. So first off, I'd like to ask, what was your initial reaction to hearing about the new budget increase?
So my initial reaction was validation. I would say, having been a family services specialist for many years of my career, it was nice to hear that there was some thought and some value expressed for the work that family services specialists do. There was also an increase in there for other social services, local social services staff, which was validating as well, because all staff, benefits administrative staff, and your services staff do very difficult work. But it was exciting to hear that the difficult work was commended by a salary increase and getting those base salaries up. Because when you look at the difference between local jurisdictions and what they can afford to pay their family services staff, there is a huge variance depending on where you are located in the state. And then, of course, what your locality can contribute towards the salary for your family services staff. So it was exciting, validating, and it felt like we were valued at the state level, which I'm not saying we're pushed to the side, but oftentimes that's not where you see the money going. So it's a great move forward for the hard work that our services staff does every day.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. And I think, hearing, it's one of the things about Virginia that's really unique is that we make a lot of statewide decisions, but then localities have different ways of implementing them. And so this really is a way to kind of raise the floor and make sure that localities like yours have the resources they need to be able to, like you said, validate and fund those important positions.
Right.
So how will this change get communicated to workers themselves?
So in my agency, it was communicated via staff meeting. I brought my staff together virtually to be safe, but we do meet regularly virtually. And I at first communicated it to my leadership staff. So my family services supervisor, who already was learning about it and hearing about it, was aware. We talked as a leadership team in our agency, and then I communicated it to staff in a staff meeting as it impacted both services staff, admin, and benefits staff. And explained what it meant, talked about the process. Social workers are not typically math majors. So, there's some involved. So we talked about that a little bit and encouraged staff to ask me any questions or, reach out to anyone else or put them in touch with anyone that could answer their questions about how this will impact them, what it will look like when it takes effect, that kind of thing. So open line of communication with staff about it and, the process and how it will impact their salaries moving forward.
That's really encouraging. I always appreciate leadership that's willing to come in and say, here's what's going on and here's how this will impact you. And it sounds like you all are doing that pretty early on as soon as you knew about this increase.
Yes, absolutely.
So how do you feel like this increase will create change for you and your staff?
I think similar to the first question that you asked, Courtney, I think that it really, it indicates to staff that their hard work is valued and that they are valuable to the welfare of children and families in the state of Virginia. So moving forward, I think it will continue to give them hope that the work will be important to the state, to the community, to their locality that they work for. And will hopefully encourage staff to continue to stay in the field. So I'm hoping for a retention, consequence, so to speak, from this change. And hopefully in the recruitment process, it will be more enticing for someone to want to come work for us because we can give a little bit more money than we had been previously in the past. So I hope from a recruitment and retention perspective, it will benefit my locality and other localities where oftentimes recruitment and retention of staff is difficult. We oftentimes see staff who will come to us, maybe fresh out of school, get all of their training under their belt, get some experience under their belt, and then leave us for another locality that can pay them more money than we can. And that's the reality of the way our system is set up. And I understand it, and I can't necessarily blame staff, but I think this increase will help us hold on to those staff that we need and that we've worked hard to train and build those skills to working with our children and families.
Yeah, and I can see how that would have rippling effects on the children in your locality, because having a consistent staff to be there to support them through their various transitions could be super impactful if that's not consistent.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Doing the work, I did foster care for many years early on in my career, and that turnover in staff is crippling for those children and the families that you're working with to constantly be reassigned to a new worker and have to build that relationship, learn about that family, learn about that child. So yes, I agree with you. It can have rippling effects for the children and families we serve.
Are there any additional impacts or differences that you think this will make for children and families?
With the salary increase?
Mm-hmm.
I just think, I'm hopeful that it will give our families the understanding that, not that we don't share our salaries with the families that we work with, but if the state puts out there that we're valuable, then that will ripple down, trickle its way down to children and families, that the work that we do is important. The state values that work, and we do good work, we do hard work, but the end results are positive results for children and families and can keep children with their families, which is ultimately the goal of the work that we do. We want to keep children with their families. Families know their children best. That's the best place for children. And if it's not, we'll come up with alternatives and we'll make the right decisions. But hopefully this will help support that work as we move forward.
That's really encouraging. I know that those are the results we want to be seeing, is that reinforcement of the family and supporting them however we can. So
yep, absolutely.
That's exciting. Obviously lots unknown, I think, at this time, with not knowing the full implications. So that'll be exciting to see.
Yes.
So the last question I had for you on this topic, part of what I was hearing this session, and even from some former foster youth themselves, was that caseworkers are both underpaid and overworked with too many cases. So while this particular legislation addresses the first concern, do you think this change means we should pivot to focus on the caseload, or is 20% increase insufficient and we need to continue to look at that salary increase beyond what's there?
So a loaded question, to be sure.
Right.
I can't pick one over the other. I think absolutely the size of caseloads needs to continuously be evaluated and adjusted. I work in a small locality here in New Kent County. Our numbers are not overwhelming, and we're able to meet those needs and have strong working relationships with the children and families that we serve. Larger localities do not necessarily have that luxury. And so you would probably get a different response if you ask somebody in a large locality who has huge numbers on their caseloads versus my locality. Right now, I'd probably say let's look at maybe increasing that base salary even further. However, you do have to look at those caseload numbers and shift a focus there. So I don't think there's a good or right answer to that question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really depends on the locality, the number of children and families you're serving, the fiscal ability of that locality to make those salary increases. There are a lot of factors that go into it. And so I can't give you a black and white answer on that one. It's a great question. And I think the answer would probably change over time. You asked me today, but I might have a different response 6 months from now and a different response a year from now. They're both very important issues. And I think you talk to any local director and they would say the same. Salary is important, but so is the number of children assigned to your caseload. If you have too many, you can't give any the attention that they deserve. So more to come, I think, on that as we see how this impacts the workforce and what changes may come in the future, either through legislation or policy changes, et cetera.
I really appreciate that transparency, because I do recognize it is a difficult situation. And I think, to your point, locality makes a difference. So as you're saying, with a larger locality who needs to work at reducing caseloads and another locality that needs to work at increasing salaries, I think that's part of the statewide perspective, is understanding not every area is the same and every area has different needs. And so keeping all of those needs in mind, which is difficult, but definitely, the work needs to be done regardless of which way you focus.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Terrific. Well, I really appreciate your time today. It's been great to talk to you about this increase in caseworker salaries and understanding the implications.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for asking me. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.